and thank you for joining our special topic webinar, Holiday Health with an Autoimmune Condition. My name is Carla. I'm the Director of Education at NeedyMeds, and before we get started with the presentation, I want to go over just a few points. First of all, thank you to those of you that submitted questions beforehand for our presentation. We will do our best to answer all of them, but please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation by typing them into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Please know, as I said, we'll do our best to get to all your questions, but if for some reason we don't have time to answer your particular question, please know we will follow up with you personally via email after the webinar by tomorrow. Also want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for viewing on the NeedyMeds YouTube page soon. Also, in what should be the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel, you should also have PDF copies of this evening's presentations. If you have trouble accessing or downloading them, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or a message again in the questions section to let me know that you're having difficulty, and I'd be happy to send them to you via email. So with that, let's get started. For those of you that are not familiar with NeedyMeds, we are a national nonprofit, and as you can see on that slide, our mission statement is that we are dedicated to educating and empowering those seeking affordable health care. And I always put a snapshot of our homepage because really our website is the face of our organization. Just bear with me one moment. So as I was saying, NeedyMeds website is the face of our organization, and through our website and our toll-free helpline, our goal is to connect patients to programs that will provide them access, affording, or saving on their healthcare expenses. And certainly that includes medications, but it's not limited to medications. And as I had mentioned, a part of our mission statement is education, and we fulfill that part of our mission by spreading the word about NeedyMeds, certainly, and by sharing the resources we have to offer. But we also fulfill the education portion of our mission by letting people know about other ways to stay healthy and other really invaluable tools, which is why we are so pleased to have our expert with us from PAC Health, Tamara Wilson. So before I turn the mic and screen over to Tamara, for today's presentation, let me tell you a little bit about PAC Health and then a little bit about our guest. So PAC Health is a digital health coaching company that helps people with chronic conditions live their happiest, healthiest lives. You set the goal, and your PAC Health health advisor will help you get there with weekly coaching calls and personalized follow-ups. PAC Health currently has grant-funded programs available for people living with rheumatoid arthritis, MS, irritable bowel disease, and you can sign up free of charge, no credit card info required, at a website link, which we can certainly email you and we'll show you at the end of our presentation, which is pachealth.com/NeedyMeds. And Tamara, our guest, is going to talk to you about how to do those things, meaning access the right care and develop the right skills to help those specifically living with an autoimmune condition to stay healthy and feel well through the holidays. Tamara Wilson is a nutritionist and health coach with PAC Health. She uses her master's degree in clinical nutrition and health coaching certification every day as a health advisor at PAC Health, where she's helped over 300 members on their journey to better health. Tamara's superpower is making it easier for you to build health habits that can help you feel better. She does so with pleasant persistence and an uncanny ability to understand and troubleshoot the obstacles that stand in your way, which we all certainly have. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and our screen to our guest, so bear with us. You may hear a moment of silence in the meantime. Tamara, you should be able to grab the screen now and take it away. Everybody enjoy this evening's presentation, and thanks.
All right, can everyone see the screen?
You are good to go. I can see the screen perfectly and I can hear you clearly. Enjoy the presentation, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and good evening. Again, thank you, Carla, and thank you so much, NeedyMeds, for this opportunity. Again, my name is Tamara, and I'm very honored to be given this opportunity to discuss a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, as well as to members of the Pack Health family. So there are a host of conditions that fall under the umbrella of autoimmune, and some of those conditions are psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, inflammatory bowel disease, psoriatic arthritis, and a host of others. And living and managing these conditions can be frustrating and, bottom line, pretty stressful, which can be aggravating because stress is definitely a well-known trigger for those flare-ups. So, what's the point? Why are we here? We're here because of the holidays. It's a time of family, fun, definitely food, but also cold weather, sometimes illnesses, stress, and depending on how big your family is, chaos. So I'm here to hopefully equip you with a few tools to get you through the holidays and to improve your quality of life while managing your condition. So there's a lot that's going on during the holiday season. We're going to discuss a few areas that can help you minimize your triggers throughout the holiday. Now, I've said this word a few times already, but it's something that's very important when getting a handle on your health, and that word is triggers. Generally speaking, an autoimmune condition is literally when your immune system begins to attack certain areas of your body, such as your joints in the case of RA, or increasing the rapid production of skin cells, such as with psoriasis. With managing these symptoms, managing these conditions comes symptoms. And some common symptoms are fatigue, sometimes swelling and redness, low-grade fever, skin outbreaks, sometimes achy muscles, and even numbness or tingling in your hands or feet. And knowing what contribute or causes your symptoms are called triggers. When exposed to triggers, this can lead to what we call an exacerbation or a flare-up of your symptoms. And flares are a sudden or unexpected rush of your symptoms, and the length and time and your pain levels can vary from flare to flare. So the question is, how well do you know yourself? What triggers have you been able to identify for yourself? Some common triggers known are illness, stress, certain infections, and fatigue. But triggers can vary from person to person. I challenge you today to use this week to monitor your symptoms. You can go old school. You can use a piece of paper, even a notebook, or you can upgrade and use your computer or your tablet. But write down when your symptoms occur. I need you to be specific. Record your symptom, what time it happened, what were you doing before it happened, and how long did your symptom last. By doing this, you will start to notice patterns. Sometimes it could be something you ate. Did you overexert yourself? Did you forget to take your medications? Or were you stressed? So much more. So be very mindful of the patterns that you notice. We're going to discuss a few common triggers that hopefully will help you address this holiday season, such as your food choices, exercise, as well as managing stress, sleep, and social support. And as this slide shows you, the one thing we want to make sure you do is to not let your chronic illness steal the joy of your season. And this is a special quote from one of our personal members, Miss Linda Perkins, who has an excellent blog that you should definitely check out if you have that opportunity. So where are we starting? Let's start with food. It's the holidays, right? So why food? There is a significant body of research that suggests that food that are high in fat, sugar, and highly processed is definitely linked to inflammation. This is important because increased inflammation contributes to the symptoms you experience while trying to manage your health. So that makes food items like this a possible trigger. So what is your meal supposed to look like? To your right, you're going to notice a diagram. It's a plate with food that we call the healthy plate. So this is a model called the healthy plate. This is general recommendations of building your plate unless you have a strict dietary restriction. If possible, I want you to use a piece of paper and you draw this dinner plate, or imagine your dinner plate that you use. And from that dinner plate, in the center, you draw a line down the center of that plate. And from that center line, you draw a line to the left side of your plate. And you should be left with a plate that has 3 spaces, such as the diagram, a half of your plate, and 2 quarters. All right? So if you're looking at the diagram, you see on the right-hand side of that plate, it makes up the majority. You have a food group called non-starchy vegetable. These are food items that are very important because they tend to be lower in calories as well as higher in vitamins and minerals, and they tend to be more anti-inflammatory. So the food items that we're thinking about, if you look at your chart, you're thinking more of your spinach, your kale, or for a lighter load, your cucumbers, broccoli, cauliflower, as well as zucchini. So you want to choose more of these food items. So you want half of your plate to be this particular item. Now, if you look over to the left-hand side, it's broken into those 2 quarters. Look at the top left-hand corner. Here it's broken into grains and or starchy vegetables. And when we think about grains, that's what we think of our breads, our rices, pastas, and oatmeals. And unless you have a dietary restriction, such as a gluten allergy or a different type of grain allergy, it's going to be important to try to focus on your whole wheats or whole grains. But you want to make sure you keep this particular food item to a specific size, which is the quarter of your plate, or for a neat trick, the size of your fist. So if you can ball your hand up into a fist, that represents the portion size of 1 cup. All right? So sharing a space with the grains group is another group of vegetables called starchy vegetables. Now with this particular group, you're going to find food items such as corn, potatoes, including sweet potatoes, beans, and peas. Okay, so are these food items good for you? Absolutely. They're jam-packed with lots of vitamins, minerals, good source of fiber, and such. However, it's going to be very important that you consume this food group in the proper portion. And with this, it's the same rule: 1/4 of your plate, 1 cup, or the size of your fist. And so these 2 food groups share a space on your plate because you want to minimize the amount of carbohydrates that you have at your meal at a particular point in time. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about that moving forward. Now, if you look below for the protein, you're going to notice there is a nice piece of salmon, but you want to focus on lean meats such as chicken, turkey, seafood, such as your fatty fish, such as tuna or salmon, because those are the anti-inflammatory, good source of omega-3 fatty acids. So that's something you want to hone in on when you're choosing your protein sources. Other alternative sources would be like your tofus and things of that nature, and of course the nuts family and things of that as well. Now, a group that's not within the plate, but it's just as important, that's off to the right-hand side, is your fruits group. And you see that this size is actually associated with the 1 cup portion as well, because even though fruits are a great source of vitamins and minerals and they are known to be very anti-inflammatory, they still maintain a certain amount of carbohydrates. So you want to be mindful of the amount that you consume in one sitting. So definitely consuming them throughout today is a good thing, okay? And one group that's not particularly mentioned, however, it's something that as a individual dealing with chronic conditions of the autoimmune system is going to be important to address, is dairy. So it's going to be important for you to identify how your body tolerates dairy and take it by a trial basis, but the recommended portion size is definitely 1 cup. So that would be 8 ounces of milk, 1 slice of cheese, things of that nature, okay? So let's jump into a little bit more of the specifics. So I gave you a lot of information when it came to that healthy plate, right? So one group that you kind of noticed that I didn't really mention was processed or artificial foods. So it's going to be very important to make sure that you are not necessarily including a lot, if not any, to those food items to your meal. And so you want to be mindful of those sources of trans and saturated fats, particularly excess simple carbs. So I want you to think for yourself. So I challenged you before to kind of keep track of your triggers. So let's think about your food triggers. What food triggers have you noticed about yourself? What foods do you seem to tolerate well? And what about those food choices that you may not seem to tolerate as well? This is something that can help you get on the right track as it relates to your food choices. So, as you realize from the healthy plate, size definitely matters. So remember, the groups, be mindful of the starches, some of your protein choices, as well as your alternate carb sources such as fruits. So keep in mind that 1/4 of your plate, the size of your fist, or 1 cup. And so here are some ideas to keep in mind as you're choosing your different food options moving forward. So we are definitely living large and living in charge, right? And so literally the majority of your plate should be the non-starchy vegetables due to their anti-inflammatory nature. And some of the common items, just as was written on that nutrition panel that you saw before. You have your choice of onions, celery, cauliflower, definitely your leafy greens, Brussels sprouts, green beans, and asparagus. And to your right, you have a nice preparation of cauliflower, as well as a great recipe to use and to try for yourself. For those of you who may be dealing with an autoimmune condition such as IBD, and sometimes those leafy green vegetables, or those cruciferous vegetables may be a little harsh on your tummy, definitely trying those alternative vegetables such as the green beans or the cauliflower, things of that nature, or the peppers would be better. If you do want to include a little bit of those greens to your diet, trying to cook them a little bit more, so to kind of break down the fibrous content of that vegetable can be very helpful for you. Also, don't be afraid of smoothies. Adding leafy greens and things to smoothies are always a great method of including those green vegetables to your daily intake. So what can you do? Planning ahead is key. So planning ahead can cover a variety of areas. It allows you the opportunity to minimize stress and gives you control of the situation at hand. So I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. All right, so let's talk. Say, for instance, this is the holiday season, Christmas is coming up. If you're at a social gathering or a family's house and there's a lot of dishes that are coming along. So what can you do to kind of lessen that awkward moment and to feel comfortable and actually enjoy the atmosphere? Number 1, I would definitely say connect with your host. Be honest about your condition and discuss the menu in advance. And if none of those options presented work for you, ask if you can prepare your own dish for the event. It's definitely important for all parties to be comfortable and on the same page. Another tip, eat before you go. And I know this sounds strange, but eating something light before attending an event can assist in portion control, helps you to make better food choices, minimize that opportunity of that mindless eating pattern that sometimes we have when we see a whole smorgasbord of food. But choosing something light, such as a broth-based soup or even a salad, can be a definite helpful technique to keep you satisfied before you get to your event. And don't be afraid of to-go plates. Taking food to go can be a helpful practice to maintain portion control, proper food choice, and it definitely takes the stress off of future meal prep for the week. So the second scenario, what if you are the host and you're at home? A lot of times, autoimmune conditions are very characterized by fatigue levels, right? Sometimes you don't have the energy. Don't be afraid to ask for help or even suggest a potluck. You are the general of this army. Lead your troops to help you minimize the stress of prep work and cooking fatigue. Another strategy to think about, write out your dishes ahead of time. Estimate the time it takes to prepare your dishes. Prioritize your dishes. Which ones are the most time-consuming and the most important to do? And consider less stressful, time-consuming ways to prepare your dishes. So if there's a chance that you could bake it or crock pot it, go ahead and do that. Less prep work, less cleanup work. And make sure to schedule breaks while you're cooking. Your health is just as important as the meal, and scheduling breaks can help to minimize fatigue and stressors on the body. And this leads to movement. So exercise or being active is essential to the immune system response and can actually help to improve your sleep, your energy levels, and your fatigue. and it actually works towards improving other symptoms that you may experience. The key to this, however, is pacing and moderation. I'm going to say that again. The key to this is pacing yourself and moderation. So many of you can probably be described as Superwoman or Superman, right? But just like them, you have kryptonite, and that is overdoing it. It's important to balance periods of activity with periods of rest. So the holidays can be stressful, and you can be pulled in so many different directions. It's hard to know sometimes where you stop and other people begin, but the common denominator is you. Prioritize yourself and your health. So some strategies to keep in mind is to plan out your day. Place the activity of most priority first on your list. And this is a common trend that you're going to hear more throughout this talk, is to ask for help. Make sure to delineate tasks to others and know your limits. It may take some time for you to discover your sweet spot of what's too much and what's not enough, but be patient with yourself and create a workable but flexible schedule for yourself. Overexertion can lead to pain, fatigue, which further weakens your immune system and increases the likelihood of you having a flare, which will definitely take you out of commission way longer than you intended. So remember, if you don't make your health a priority, your body will make it for you. Exercise recommendations are generally about 30 minutes of moderate activity, and this is something that you can break up into chunks. You can do 5-minute increments or 10-minute increments throughout the day, and this can be something as simple as chores, walking, cycling, yoga, and so much more. So let's talk a little bit about an area that we don't give nearly as much attention to as we should, but is very, very important, especially to immune health, and that is stress, sleep, and social support. And so this plays a big role in managing your health for the holidays. Have you ever just took the time out to think about what stresses you? What are your methods that you've tried in the past to help you manage your stress that was helpful? Excessive amount of stress has been shown to elevate the expression of inflammation in the body. So finding methods that work best for you, such as exercise, relaxation techniques, or even mindfulness, are methods that can be very, very helpful and influential with your goals moving forward. So that's something to think about for yourself. So I want you to think about these questions that are presented to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your current level of stress? All right, so once you think about that, think about this. Who do you go to for social support? Who's that special circle for you that helps you to support you when things may not seem as if they're going your way, when you're feeling bad or your flares may seem out of control? Who's your go-to for social support? And how many hours of uninterrupted sleep did you get last night? Okay, so let's start with sleep. So with that being said, it's definitely recommended that the average person gets about 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And so this is important because if you're not getting enough sleep, that can actually increase your levels of fatigue and stress. And we know that stress and fatigue are very common triggers of inflammatory responses or flares. And so those are things that we want to be very mindful of. So if you're trying to figure out how do you get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, because clearly there aren't enough hours in the days, particularly during the holiday season, here are some tips and strategies that you may find helpful. It's important to establish a routine. Try to go to bed and get up at the same time each day, okay? Try techniques that are calming before bed, such as taking a warm bath, reading a book, listening to soft music. These are things that kind of put your mind and your body at ease and actually prepares you for the action of sleep. Try to turn off all electronic devices at least 1 hour before bed. A lot of research shows that actually keeping lights on or looking at activity or electronics right before bed, your brain is actually still consuming those images even when your eyes are closed and you're supposedly asleep. And so if your brain is continuously to be active and your body is trying to rest, your body and your mind are at war with one another, which can affect your quality of sleep. And make sure your bedroom is dark and cool, so make sure you adjust your temperature appropriately. Make sure your room is actually used for sleep. You know, a lot of times our bedrooms double for a lot of things in life, whether it's the makeshift office, the kitchen, or the dinner table, and the work area, and things of that nature. If you pretty much train your mind that your bedroom is a place for work and not sleep, odds are you'll probably be more active versus being tired. So try to leave other items more so in their appropriate place and use your bedroom as a place for actual sleep. And for those who may be caffeine drinkers, definitely try to cut back a little bit earlier with your caffeine intake. It's recommended technically noon, not drinking caffeine afternoon. However, if you can try to cut it off before 3 p.m., you're definitely getting in a right spot. So, social support. The people in your life influence your choices, whether good or bad. So it's definitely important to get those people on your side and supporting you in achieving your health goals and just understanding what's important to you and your health. So I want you to think about who can help you on your journey to better health. All right, so a lot of times with autoimmune conditions, it can be very difficult to explain to people what's going on because on the outside, you look fine, but on the inside you probably are in a lot of pain and sometimes dealing with a lot of discomfort. And so the first thing is being open and honest about what you're experiencing. And sometimes it even helps, especially with family members and friends, to do that research together. Show them what you're going through. Explain to them what your condition is so that they'll be more supportive and understand exactly what you're going through. So definitely take a stand. Share your goals around those people who support you. And then, of course, if you're feeling isolated, because sometimes you can explain a lot, and, probably till you're blue in the face, but it's also important to convene with individuals who are traveling in the same journey that you are. So definitely approaching support groups with people with similar experiences is something that I would definitely recommend moving forward. All right, and so your next step. So here's a challenge that I have for you. So this is something that we do all together with our members of the Pack Health team and our Pack Health family. And this is what we call is setting goals and understanding your motivation. So I want to learn from you this holiday season. What is your goal? So there's a lot of things that you could do to definitely improve your overall health and quality of life for this holiday season with managing your triggers and your flares. So I want to know, this holiday season, what would you like to do with your health? All right? And then I want to know, what's your motivation? What will you do? What motivates you to want to accomplish this goal? On those times when you're not feeling 100%, what's going to push you to want to accomplish this goal? So you're going to do this because, and I want you to identify your barriers. Okay, so what are those things that get in the way? What are those hurdles that seem to throw you off course when you're setting these goals? I want you to think about that, because when you can identify your barrier, you bring them to the forefront, put them on Front Street. This gives you the opportunity to develop strategic action plans around those barriers to make you more successful in achieving your goals. And once you have the big picture, we'll break it down to a smaller puzzle piece, I call it. And that's what we call a specific action plan. And so once you figure out what it is you want to do, I want you to think about what is the first step onto accomplishing that goal. All right? I want you to think about what's the first thing you want to do this week. Whether it's writing down your triggers, prioritizing your day. I want you to think about what you want to do, how will you do it, and what's going to remind you or trigger your mind to accomplish this goal. All right? So, in conclusion, I want to say that there are definitely many things to consider when you're trying to get through this holiday season. Definitely what you eat matters, being active, but definitely being mindful and pacing yourself throughout your day is going to be very key. Managing your stress and having adequate support are going to be key factors to keep you moving. And definitely, if you have any questions or you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much for your time this evening.
Tamara, not surprising because we at NeedyMeds have had the absolute pleasure of calling Pack Health a partner of ours. So I'm not at all surprised by the thoroughness, not only of the information you gave, of course, but by the enthusiasm. Tamara, if you can, go ahead and switch the screen back to me. And certainly remind all of our participants that if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to type them into the question section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Bear with me one moment while I grab the screen from Tamara. Let's see, you should be able to see that now, correct? So yeah, a reminder that feel free to go ahead and type your questions into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. But if anybody joining us this evening is like me and all of your questions come flooding in about 5 minutes after the webinar is over, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us at a later time. And as I said, I will provide the contact information for both Pack Health as well as NeedyMeds at the end of this evening's presentation. Tamara, you had brought up quite a few things, quite a few tips that are certainly helpful to people struggling with autoimmune conditions. But what I really resonates with me, and I think a lot of our audience, is that these are really tips that, regardless of what health tips you're struggling with, they're really applicable to everybody. And I noticed a few of the things that you stressed quite a bit was, number one, asking for help. And the other thing is being sure to give yourself some time to plan ahead in a number of situations. And certainly planning ahead doesn't mean you have to sit down and take 3 hours to plan what your meal is going to look like around dinner time. It just can sometimes mean taking a deep breath, taking a moment to yourself, slowing down, and just being mindful about what the next evening or the next week will be. So one of the things I want to take an opportunity to do is, when we talk about being planful and asking for help, it's a great segue for me to have an opportunity to mention some of the resources NeedyMeds has. And I do see a question coming in, and certainly go ahead and submit questions as I'm just giving just a little bit of information about NeedyMeds. But NeedyMeds, as I had said, is here to help people afford and save their health care. So I'm sure Tamara would agree that that's a great way to sort of check the box of being planful about your health, is making sure that moving forward you'll be able to afford the medications and other healthcare assistance that you may need. So please rely on NeedyMeds if you do need some help, and we could certainly, as I said, help you to plan what your healthcare expenses will look like moving forward. But also, we also check the box of asking for help. One of the most important things is, when you're dealing with any health condition, is making sure that you're able to afford or save on the health care you need to make sure you can fill all your budgetary requirements, especially through the holiday season. So please don't hesitate to turn to NeedyMeds and ask for help affording your healthcare expenses. And what you're looking at on the slide that's on your screen right now are just some of the programs and ways that we can connect you to resources that will help you save on your healthcare expenses. As I promised, as I take questions for Tamara, I wanted to put on your screen, there it is, the contact information for both NeedyMeds and Pack Health. Be sure to check out NeedyMeds when you do get a chance. And there is, and Tamara, please confirm for me that that is the right link. That will get you to the resources you need to take advantage of getting started with Pack Health. Is that correct, Tamara?
Yes, that is definitely correct, Carla.
Perfect. And let's see, one of the questions coming in right now is, let's see, Actually, somebody asking me to go back to the last item on the last page of your presentation, Tamara. So let's go ahead and switch back to that. It talked about goal, motivation, barriers. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen back to you so we can throw that up one more time.
Sure.
Yeah. And another question coming in is, can you talk a little bit more about what do you do if you are the host of your holiday gathering or party? What are ways to be mindful not only of your own health, but those of the people that you've invited?
Right. Absolutely. So I hope you're able to see your next steps. Is that the slide that you were asking for?
It is. Thank you. Okay. That's what we needed.
Perfect. Absolutely. So when you are the host, it's definitely going to be very important for you to create a to-do list. Create a list of things that definitely need to be accomplished, definitely the day of, but definitely steps to get ready for that particular event. Make the thing that is the most priority. So if it's shopping, you may have to plan out your shopping trip in multiple steps. If it comes to a point where people are bringing dishes, it's important to make sure that you have a dish that you can definitely consume during the event as it is hosted. In terms of other issues in terms of planning. A lot of times with cooking and preparation can be very draining. If you have individuals within the household with you, that's where that asking for help or asking for assistance comes in. If someone can do it, I know a lot of times we want to try to do everything at one time because we like things specifically the way we like it, but definitely if someone else can do a minor task for you that allows you to conserve your energy, I would definitely recommend that you do that, especially for those who may have rheumatoid arthritis. A lot of times working with your hands can be very difficult. So if you have those assistance devices, I would definitely recommend that you use those devices to help preserve your joint health, as well as to just manage your strength in general. Take time to plan your cooking schedule in advance. If there are dishes that take less time, kind of place those dishes towards the end and really prioritize those more time-consuming dishes ahead of time. And this goes back to definitely monitoring your schedule. Learning yourself and learning your body is going to be essential. If you know that you have the most energy in the morning time, make sure that that's the time of day that you do a lot of your heavy-duty work. If you find that you have the most energy during that afternoon period, the same will go for that period. So definitely learning yourself and knowing your body is going to be very important as being the host during this holiday season.
That's very helpful, and hopefully that clarifies the information Tamara shared about how to not only take care of yourself and be healthy through that particular hosting event, but more broadly, as you had said, Tamara, what your colleague Linda, her quote, which was, it will also allow you certainly to be healthy and to be a little bit calmer, but if you can get a handle on it and not overwhelm yourself, it won't zap the joy out of the holiday season, which can sometimes be pretty easy to do if you're not feeling well.
Absolutely.
And if you could also, we have another question coming in. You had mentioned some tips on ways to get a better night's sleep. And I'm glad somebody's bringing that up also, because what I really liked that you had said, Tamara, is a lot of times people will ask you, how many hours of sleep did you get? And I like that you specified uninterrupted sleep. Because if you ask me last night, sure, I got 8 hours of sleep, but did I really get 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep? No, I fell very short of that. So I think it's really important to, in particular, be mindful of that word, uninterrupted. And if you wouldn't mind just reiterating some of the tips our audience members requesting on getting that good night's sleep and how to sort of tuck yourself into the bedroom to calm yourself down and make it more possible.
Sure, absolutely. So definitely that uninterrupted sleep is definitely key. So some of those tips that I mentioned previously is definitely try to do something calming before bed. So doing something simple such as taking a warm bath, definitely reading a good book, listening to soft music. Those are things that you can definitely do. Even practicing mindfulness before bed or meditation are different strategies that people and members have used in the past. Another technique or tip that would be very helpful is setting a routine. So going to bed and getting up at the same time every day. You train your body. Your body and brain is very smart, and so you have to train it to get used to actually getting up and going to bed at the same time each day. So establishing that routine can be very helpful. Now, one tip that I mentioned, and this is something that I personally have to do better with, is turning off electronic devices at least an hour before bed. We live in the age of TV, tablets, cell phones, and things of that nature. So it can be very difficult sometimes to kind of cut it off right before bed, and so try to give yourself that hour time period to really adjust and actually prepare your mind as well as your body for sleep, because we don't want your brain to continue to receive those signals of lights and sounds and things of that nature post you going to bed. And of course, for those individuals who are the caffeine drinkers, try to make sure that we're cutting that back earlier in the day. So definitely is recommended before noon if you can, but I know it can be a little bit difficult during those stressful work days, so definitely try to cut it before 3 if you definitely have to stretch it to that max. And then of course, one final tip is make sure that your bedroom is for sleep. And I know it's something, difficult sometimes when you do everything in your room, but try to associate bedtime with sleep. And that's something that you can continue to build each night. But definitely, if your brain recognizes your bedroom as a place of rest and not as a place of activity and work, it can actually help to ease your mind and your body into a pattern of good sleep.
Fantastic. I'm so glad that our audience member asked you to reiterate that because it's such useful tips. And again, importantly, that although this presentation is focused on holiday health for those living with an autoimmune condition, it really, all of this information is applicable to anyone who's looking to improve or maintain their health, not only through the busy and hectic holiday season, but really all year round. So Tamara, if you want to go ahead and switch the screen back to me yet again, because I'd love to leave our audience just with the contact information for both NeedyMeds and PAC Health. A reminder to everybody that these presentations, meaning the PowerPoints, are in the handout section of your GoToWebinar control panel. But please know this webinar, as I also mentioned, has been recorded, and we at NeedyMeds will do our best to convert it into a video and post it on our YouTube channel. I will give you the heads up, we're going through a bit of a transition with our YouTube channel, so it may take us about a week or a little bit longer, but we will certainly be happy to post that as soon as we can. And please do expect to get a follow-up email from me providing you with this PAC Health link as well, because I think that's super important. And I know sometimes when you get off from a webinar and go about the rest of your evening and start tomorrow morning, it's really easy to lose sight of these resources. So I'm going to go ahead and tomorrow shoot everybody a follow-up email, making sure you have access to that link right at your fingertips. So with that, Tamara, a big thanks from myself and, of course, the team at NeedyMeds for taking the time to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds audience. And for everybody listening who took time out of their busy evening during the holiday season to learn some tips, thank you so much. And please feel free to share the resources of PAC Health and NeedyMeds with your friends and family members. Thanks so much, everybody, for your time. Tamara, thanks again for sharing your expertise. Happy and healthy holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Good night.